Greetings and welcome to Flanigan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanigan, and today my guest is Ted Bardacke. He is the CEO of Clean Power Alliance. It's the nation's largest community choice aggregator. They're serving power to about 3.5 million people. We'll get into some of the statistics. I did interview Ted in May of 2023, and in that episode, we talked about the value of community choice aggregators. So we're not going to be covering that. If you want to hear about that, please look up that prior episode. Today, we're just going to be talking about what's happened in the 8 years of service that CPA has provided to residents in Los Angeles and Ventura counties. Ted, welcome to the podcast. Great to see you.
Great. Thanks for having me back, Ted. Always appreciate talking to you.
Well, super. Let's just dig in. Let's talk about your progress. You said you're in your 8th year of serving green power to your customers. How big are you right now?
Yeah. So we, as you mentioned, we serve over 3 million people. That's via over 1 million customer accounts. So that's over 1 million meters across 35 communities in LA and Los Angeles and Ventura counties. That's the unincorporated parts of both counties, as well as 33 cities. In October of this year, we'll start service in 3 more cities, La Cunada, Flint Ridge, Linwood, and Port Hueneme. So that'll bring us to 38 and close to 1.1 million customers. Now, in the 7+ years that we've been providing service, couple of milestones. We've become the largest provider of green energy in the nation. That's a designation that the National Renewable Energy Lab provides through a survey of all load-serving entities in the country. That's 2 years running now. So we're very proud of having built this organization into, something that can make that claim. It's definitely reduced carbon emissions, both in our service territory, but nationally and globally. So that's one big milestone. The other big milestone is that we've since we last talked in 2023, we've added 6 new cities. So we continue to grow. In 2024, we added Santa Paula, Hermosa Beach, and Monrovia. And then I mentioned we have 3 more cities joining. So that's 6 in a couple of years. And we have more cities that are looking to join in the future. So we're both growing the supply of renewable energy in the state of California, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but also providing more options for more customers in our two counties.
Well, congratulations, Ted. That's you and your team are just doing an awesome job, and the fact that you're growing is proof that more and more cities are valuing what you're doing. Talk about capacity. How many megawatts are you providing, or what is your peak demand?
Yeah, so those are two different metrics. So our annual sales of overall energy is between 10 and 11 terawatt hours. Between 10 and 11,000 megawatt hours of energy over the course of a year. Our peak demand, we might hit it this month, we might hit it next month, is about 30. On our most peak day is about 3,400 megawatts. Both of those sales make us the 3rd largest electricity provider in the California Independent System Operator. So in terms of sales and peak
So that's
capacity.
that's after PG&E and after Southern California Edison. You're the
That's
next.
correct.
You're
We're the
you're providing more than San Diego Gas and Electric or LADWP or certainly SMUD.
So we're definitely providing more than San Diego Gas and Electric, and that's partly our growth, but it's also partly because two pretty large CCAs in San Diego County started as well and took a bunch of load from SDG&E. So they've been going down, and we've been going up. It doesn't include DWP, and for some of your Southern California listeners, this is important. DWP is not part of the California Independent System Operator. It runs its own grid, so they're kind of an outlier there. They do have higher sales than us, so we're the fourth largest in the state, but third largest within what we call the California grid.
And then in terms of growth, you mentioned you're adding 3 new cities are online to come join the fold or come into the fold. How big will you get? I mean, is there an optimal size, or is there a size where you get too big to be as nimble as you want to be?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that we discuss internally. We discuss it with the board. I think there's a number of factors here. I think from the like technical capacity to serve, we don't really see any sort of physical limits on our ability to continue expanding in LA and Ventura counties. But there are other considerations. So one is you don't want to expand too fast. So you want to be methodical. Every expansion brings some risk in that expansion time. It takes staff time and all of that. So we want to be measured. The other another consideration is at the board level. So we are, I think, in a great way set up that every city that joins gets a seat on our board.
Yeah.
So our board is now 38 members. That's
pretty big.
That is pretty big. And if we add a couple more cities, it'll hit 40. And we have a very effective executive committee. We have other policy committees. So people are engaged in much smaller settings. But that is a sizable board. And so at some point in growth, we'd have to figure out, is that the right governance structure? And then I think the third thing that we have to make sure is that we're, part of the value proposition of CCAs is, rooted in local values, rooted in our local communities, responsive in a way that the, investor-owned utilities struggle with sometimes. Any customer can email me and get a response.
Yeah.
So
you can't do that with Southern California Edison.
That is correct. So we don't want to lose that.
Yep.
Right? We don't want to lose that local rootedness. And so there's a question about how we would maintain that culture of local values, culture of service, in a ever-growing organization.
Yeah. Ted, let's talk about pricing. I remember when CPA was being created by our mutual friend Gary Giroux, I had several discussions with him about this. And wouldn't a lot of your customers opt out if your pricing exceeded what they'd have to pay from Edison? And I think we met a couple months ago in Beverly Hills, and you're pretty similar in pricing. Is that right, or do you maintain a? Go ahead. Talk a little bit about that.
Of course, yeah. We have 3 rate products. So we have our 3 products that any CPA customer can choose, and that's really important. That one of the propositions we're bringing, obviously, is reduced greenhouse gas emissions, but we're also just bringing more choices. So our three choices are lean power, clean power, and 100% green power. And they each have different environmental content, and they come at different price points. So lean power is our lowest price. Currently on a total bill basis, it's 2% cheaper than Edison. And its environmental content fluctuates. Usually it's very similar to what Edison's base product is. Sometimes it's a little worse, but definitely that's the money-saving option for those. About 10% of our customers are on that option. Not very many, but it's there and people choose it, and it's really important that we maintain that money-saving choice. Clean power is right now priced equally with Edison, and it has generally more renewables and lower greenhouse gas emissions than Edison. So you can think of that as same price, better product, or
better environmental product. Yeah,
better environmental product. And about 20-25% of our customers are on that product. And then we have our 100% green product, our premium priced product. Right now it's 6% more expensive. It's ranged from 3% more expensive to 9% more expensive, but right now it's at 6%. And that's 100% renewable energy. That's 3 times what Edison's base product is providing in terms of renewables, and about 2/3 of our customers, even more, are on that product.
And that's fantastic. And I think we talked about the fact that very few customers have opted out. I mean, we're in California, we're an opt-out state. In other words, if a city joins the CPA or any community choice aggregator, every customer is automatically enrolled in that program. They do have the right to opt out. And I think you told me your opt-out rates have been really low, even though even though your pricing is a little higher for the 100% green
product. I think so our what we call our participation rate is 93%, and it's been stable at 93%, which means that 7% of the eligible customers have opted out. And I think, back to the choice perspective, I think part of the reason we've kept opt-outs low is we have options within the Clean Power Alliance for people who are, if we didn't offer a less expensive option, then more people would be opting out.
Because some cities like Santa Monica and Beverly Hills and start off at 100% for everybody, right?
That's correct.
But then when can people opt out? Is it at any point?
Anytime. So it's our, it's something we watch like hawks. Making sure that again we have those options, and that if people are saying I need something less expensive, that there's an option. There's an option that we Now I'll say that these, in California, we don't have really a culture of switching electricity providers very much. This is not like Texas or other places where there are full open retail markets, and people don't see electricity so much as like a cell phone service or a cable TV or internet provider, which are all these days basic services, but there's a lot more churn. And so that's why you see advertising. That's why you see, special, deals changed to us, all that stuff. There isn't that culture in California, for better or for worse. And so generally people make one choice, and they stick with it.
Yeah. Could they opt in if they've opted out? Can they opt back in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a waiting period that Edison imposes, but we do see people coming back.
Yeah.
Some of it is depending on pricing, and some of it is depending on. We see more of the customer churn in that way, in the business sector, because those are people generally who are watching the fluctuations of bills a little bit more carefully.
Yeah.
If you've got a $15,000 a month electricity bill, you're looking.
You're on it. Yeah.
But you also see, as corporate policies come across, if a corporation has a renewable energy or a carbon reduction goal,
Sure.
their accounts in our territory, or their business in our territory, were the easiest way for them to meet those internal mandates.
Yeah.
So if a company puts in, and then we're a pretty good value proposition for them.
Absolutely. I interviewed Karen Burns, who's the head of San Diego Community Power. I know you know her. And she was talking about, as the CCAs get more established and your finances get, I guess, stronger, she said, we'll be able to offer more and more programs. And that's what I want to talk about is your programs. Seems like your programs are getting more and more robust, right? Can you talk about some of the customer services that you're offering?
Sure. So, I think again, back to the value proposition, one of the value propositions of CPA is that we offer an array of programs that are locally rooted, in the sense that we have a pretty fine grained understanding of what's needed in our communities, because we're there every day. They're on our board. So we have a suite of close to a dozen programs that are only available for our customers and our communities. So that's a real important value proposition. Within our customer programs, there's kind of two types of programs. One is for our cities. So the cities joined us. They went through this process of, all their customers got defaulted into our service unless they opted out. But the cities are our members, and as far as I'm concerned, the cities are our shareholders. Right. And so we offer programs specifically for them.
Like
the
Power Ready program, or
like Power Ready, which is a program that provides clean energy powered backup electricity systems for critical facilities. So think of a fire station, a police station, an emergency operations center, or a library that doubles as a community center. So that if the power goes out, whether that's from a public safety power shutoff or a grid problem or a local infrastructure problem, they don't have to fire up a diesel generator. They can stay. So we provide those systems free to our member agencies. The other one we have is called Energized Communities, where we provide $250,000 for them to pursue conversion of their city vehicle fleet to electric vehicles, or if they're retrofitting or building a new city building, to electrify that building. So there's a new city services facility in Hermosa Beach that's all electric. We helped fund that, the additional measures there, or to add community EV charging, publicly available EV charging on municipal-owned sites. So that might be a park or a city hall, or areas where the city has control of the land, and would like to do that. So those are programs for our cities, and they're very much designed by the feedback that we heard. On the customer side, we could do a whole program on this, on just those, or you could invite our programs director. But some of that is grid management, so demand response, things that help people reduce electricity use during high emission, high cost times of the day, sort of demand shifting. There's another set of programs where we help people electrify their buildings. And then there's other more discount programs specifically for low-income customers.
Yeah. Ted, is there duplicity between what you're doing and what Edison is doing? I mean, is there overlap, or can one of your customers pick up incentives from Edison as well?
So, Edison's programs are dominated by energy efficiency, and those are funded through the state, and therefore, and charges on everybody's bills. So therefore, our customers still have access to those Edison programs. There are a couple of programs that we have that Edison also has, and a customer would choose one or the other based on who their electricity provider is. I'll give you an example of that one. Smart thermostat. Yeah. So the idea that you turn over the control of your thermostat during peak demand times to the utility to help pre-cool and turn it down. We have one, Edison has one, but we have more programs exclusive for our customers than Edison has exclusive for their customers.
Right. And what about solar? If one of your customers is doing solar, are they net energy metering with Edison or with you? How does that work?
They're on the distribution side, they're net energy metering with Edison, and on the generation side, they're net energy metering with us. Yeah. I think it's crucial for your listeners or now viewers, welcome to the
yeah, the YouTube reality.
Yeah. That when a customer is getting their electrons from Clean Power Alliance or their programs from Clean Power Alliance, they still remain customers of Edison. And they remain customers of Edison for the lines and the wires and the infrastructure. So that's why our customers still have access to most of those Edison programs. And frankly, the lines and the wires and the distribution is between 60 and 70% of a customer's bill.
Yeah.
The actual electrons are less than half of your electricity bill.
And that's something that most people don't understand. I mean, it used to be that the generation portion was the larger portion of the bill, right?
Yeah, when we started CPA in 2018, it was about 50-50.
Yeah.
50% electrons, 50% delivery infrastructure. And now it's, again, between 60 and 70%.
Yeah.
And in fact, this year, our generation rates and Edison's generation rates have gone down, but people's bills have gone up.
Right.
And the reason for that is that the cost of the infrastructure and wildfires and wildfire mitigation and just sort of the building out of the grid is overtaking our ability to reduce the price of the electrons.
Yeah, interesting. Let's shift and talk about the effects of what's happening in Washington with the current administration. And I just was just reading yesterday about some of the changes in the wind industry, that wind farms will not be able to be located near railroad tracks or highways, and all these restrictions that I assume are making it harder and harder for for CCAs to procure power. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, so I think of this in three buckets.
Okay.
I think of this as what's the impact, particularly on CPA and where we are in our where we are in this changing market. And then I think about the changes in the market. And then I think about the changes that the customer will see and feel. So those are the three buckets, and I could talk about each of those three buckets. So the CPA specific bucket is that we kind of lucked in, or maybe made our luck into a decently advantageous situation, in that because we had so many customers on 100% renewable energy so quickly, and we grew our renewable energy portfolio so rapidly, we were doing lots and lots of buying in the low cost environment that we've had, since the mid 2010s. So there was massive cost reduction of renewables through about 2022,
Right.
and then it started to tick up for a variety of reasons: the pandemic, tariffs, and now the potential loss of tax credits, as well as increasing demand. So we happened to have procured pretty early, so we are very well resourced, and we have no renewable energy projects that we are expecting to come online that are not already well advanced in construction. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna be doing pretty well competitively in our procurement. So that's not to say that there aren't super negative market impacts of both tax credits, but also a renewed interest in making permitting harder for renewable energy, as well as the trade stuff and tariffs, and a real focus on trying to shift supply chains out of China.
Well, and this goes back to what we're talking about with your growth. I mean, as you grow your customer base, and you got that marginal cost of renewables going up, that makes it a tough situation, right?
That's right, and so again, that's why our growth is moderated. We moderate, but I also think that that's an area in the market where CCAs who aren't as well resourced with renewables are going to face some challenges. The IOUs are going to face challenges because the IOUs have to ramp up to be 60% renewables by the end of the decade, and we all have to be 90% clean energy by 2035 here in California. So I think competitively we're in a good position, but overall the market, it's going to get more expensive. There's just more demand and going to be less supply, and the supply that is going to be available is going to be more expensive.
Yep.
Now, the third bucket is the area of the sort of the consumer, and this is actually, we will manage all of these market disturbances. We will be able to see it through. The customer, the end of all of these customer direct incentives, whether that was through tax credits, rebates, local, more grant funded programs at the federal level, is really breaking apart an ecosystem that was very favorable to electrification, very favorable to renewables, very favorable to clean energy, very favorable to carbon reduction. And my sort of bigger problem outside of the business, but thinking about my customers who want to do the right thing, it's going to be harder and harder for them to do that. It's going to be more costly, and we're sort of breaking apart an ecosystem that had been very healthy, very thriving, and really breaking it into pieces. And that's very disturbing and sad to watch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now the ITC goes away for residential customers at the end of this year. And that's for solar systems and for batteries. Commercial, the glide path is a little bit longer, but like you said, the disturbance is it's disturbing. But I'm happy to hear you say that you're gonna weather the storm and make it through these market disturbances. Come out
Yeah,
the other
again,
end.
at the bulk system level and the supply, like I think we're going to be okay. It's that customer
Side,
experience
yeah.
with electrification, the $7,500 EV tax credit, which you could get at the dealer up front, is going away at the end of September.
Yeah.
This was we had spent even during the first Trump term, and then through Biden, we had spent a lot of time and energy doing really good work in building up this ecosystem. And California will do, I believe, a very good job of holding this ecosystem together locally at the state level, and potentially filling some of those gaps. But we were at the forefront of a national movement, and I think there's going to be some real backslide.
Yeah. Last question. What's next for CPA? You got some more growth, moderate growth, more programs, more services.
Yeah, so I think we're always looking to refine and expand our programs and program funding. I think better and just making sure that as many customers have access to programs that matter to them. So really getting closer to the customer. That's one area. We're also exploring asset ownership. So right now, we do all of our procurement through power purchase agreement model. There may be a case for some of our local projects to actually be the owner and builder, which would be an evolution of CCAs in general, but also particularly for us. And then I think the other thing that we're ever focused on is how do we help make the customer a co-manager of the electricity system. So in California, customers very much are co-managers of the water system. When there's a drought, people respond, they conserve, they water their lawn less, they actually respond.
Yeah.
And there's a real culture of that. There's less of a culture of that kind of response to electricity system changes and demands. Now, it's harder for a customer because those demands are over the course of a few days or a few hours rather than seasonal and years, like when we have a drought. So it takes a little bit more agile. So it's probably a little bit more ripe for automation. But we're all going to benefit. The customer is going to benefit. Clean Power Alliance is going to benefit, and the climate is going to benefit if we get our customers to be active participants in the electricity system. And I hope that we're able to help people on that journey.
Boy, Ted, congratulations on your progress. Thanks for what you're doing. What a great model. And thanks so much for being on the podcast again. It's great to see you.
Well, thanks, Ted, anytime. And I hope you have a good rest of the summer.
You too.